I hope people, yeah, now it's on. Good. Thank you very much. But I don't know when the time is up. Now. Good evening and welcome to Grace Christian Family Center. My name is Doug Metcalfe, and tonight I will be doing the second part of anger. This time it will be on anger management. Last week we talked about what anger is and various types of anger. Now we're going to talk about if you've got it, let's try and get rid of it. Anger management is a process. I'm sorry I have to read this, but I do. It's just too long for me to memorize. Anger management is a process of learning to recognize signs that you're becoming angry and taking action to calm down and deal with the situation in a positive, not negative way. Anger management does not try to keep you from feeling anger or holding it in, because anger is a healthy, normal emotion when you know how to express it appropriately. Anger management helps you recognize frustrations early and resolve them in a way that helps you express your needs but keeps you calm and in control. Coping well with anger is a learned behavior, just as behaving badly when you get frustrated is a behavior you have to unlearn. Anger management is a way of systematically recognizing what pushes your buttons and how to respond in ways that will work for you instead of against you. Keep in mind that everybody gets angry and says and does things that he or she regrets from time to time. This is normal and not necessarily a sign that you need to seek out anger management help. However, when your anger is damaging your relationships, is making you miserable, or is resulting in dangerous or violent behavior, you probably need help. Some good indicators that you really need help in controlling your anger include often feeling like you have to hold in that anger or you will explode. 2, frequent arguments with your partner, children, or coworkers that escalate your frustrations. 3, physical violence, such as hitting your partner or children or even starting fights. 4, threats of violence against other people or properties. Or 5, out of control behavior such as breaking things or driving recklessly. One strategy for controlling anger is finding agreement with another person rather than conflict. The use of deep breathing and meditation can also be used as a result or helpful in handling relaxation. As the issue of anger varies from person to person, solutions need to respect and build upon each individual's life experiences. What will basically keep me calm would not keep another person calm. So there are 4 methods basically in anger management, 4 different ways to look at anger management and how you can handle it. First is direct. That would include making behavior visible and making communication clear. The end result is not to become resentful, but rather be honest about the feeling of anger and what is causing it. Second is honorable. This includes identifying the moral basis for this anger and being willing to dialogue around the reason for the anger. In short, this includes taking responsibility for your anger. 3 is focused. This means staying with the issue of concern and not bringing up irrelevant, inappropriate actions or talk. 4 is fused. This means staying with the issue of, I just mentioned that one. Let's go to the next one, courageous. This implies careful and thoughtful self-examination. It means being willing to admit when you are wrong or when a reaction is inappropriate. Next is humility. Means seeking the truth instead of merely being defensive and self-justifying. Next is forgiveness. This means acknowledging the wrong in someone else's behavior or words, and then letting go of bitterness and resentment associated with that wrong. Next is listen. That means hearing the other person out, asking questions around their feelings and what their reason was for the action that they did. And finally is thankfulness. This means finding elements related to the situation where one is genuinely appreciative and expressing that fact. Now, as we did last week, I had a lot of different quizzes that I handed out and left up at the front table. And this time we have the same situation. I have basically little quizzes that will allow you to reflect on how you are handling anger and give you some positive ways to handle it rather than negative. The first is called the Anger Management Assessment. And it says it's where you stand, basically, and what you can do. And so how it works, it says here, as I say, it's up at the table. The first portion will say, read over the 10 levels of this anger management test at least twice. Okay, and you'll see as you go through, you'll see what the 10 levels are. Next is decide which level you are at your best and also at your worst, and then figure out which one is the best to use. And this is something that you would do not just once in a great while, but the way you handle anger most of the time. Then read the anger management assessment segment and then decide which category best describes you. Then after we finish that one, we go to another one, which is called the Emotional Balance Sheet. And it's an assessment tool that basically will allow you to figure out how you handle things with different emotions that you have. You will rate yourself on each item that you will read, and with a scale with a number alongside of it. And those would be, if you have a 0 on it, that would be, for example, you don't have that problem at all. A 1 is very little, 2 is moderate, 3 is sufficient, 4 is very good, and 5 is excellent. So I'm not going to go through with the ones they are, but it's basically a 3-page situation that you will go through, and at the very end it will give you what your score is and how you will handle situations based on your score after finishing it. And I believe that is, I don't think there's any more. There might be one more. Okay, now we're going to talk about action on anger. You've got to keep in mind that most anger is a question of having your buttons pushed. And certain things will basically make you angry quicker than something else will. So it's how will we diffuse these particular triggers? And there are certain ways to do it. So in order to dissolve anger, I have to hold it up here, the best way of dealing with anger habit is basically this: prevent it from occurring in the first place. So we can talk about, you can have anger, as some experts advise that expressing anger only makes things worse because it takes a difficult situation and makes it stronger and worse for everyone. The other is, it says, expressing anger is easier on the heart. However, you could end up lonely. Suppressing anger and people will like you, but may damage your health because you're holding things in. But to dissolve anger, the first thing we have to look at is there's a few steps. The first step is 1, remind yourself that you are not always right. Recognize that you cannot change the world. You cannot win every argument about I'm always right and you're always wrong. And you cannot change other people. The only person you can change is yourself. Second fact is recognize that just like you, other people are fallible and human, and that they are just as easy or just as likely to say or do inappropriate and thoughtless things on occasions. So accept this and don't hold a grudge against someone when they do such a thing, because you do it yourself. Fact 3 is recognize that your anger hurts you as much as it hurts others. It affects your peace of mind, your relationships, and also your physical health. The action step 2 is to find what triggers set you off. So they are signals that it is time to get angry, and they are important because once one has been activated, the feelings occur automatically and inevitably. So from moment to moment, pay attention to what irritates you and spend the next week or two trying to build a list of these anger triggers. If you can write it down and keep it on a card, if you feel yourself getting angry at some point in time, just pull out the card and take a look at it and say, okay, I'm getting to this point. I need to stop. I need to go ahead and try to dissolve that particular thing that is causing me that problem, okay? Once you've got those down, the best thing to do is to rate them. And some people might have 3 or 4 triggers. Some people could have 20 or 30. And it doesn't matter so long as you try to write down all those things, all those anger items, all those little buttons that bother you, and write them down. But next, to make it even more important, number them. Which one is one that makes you the most angry? You give a 1 to that one. And you go on down the list until you get all of them written down and numbered so that you know which ones are the most important against you. They say here that it's also good to write down what we call a trigger a week card, so that if you find that one week something really, really bothers you, put it down as the date, and that's the trigger for that week. You might find that that trigger is nowhere near as important the next week or 2 weeks later as it was this week. So you can have a chart of what angers are basically bothering you, what makes you angry, and what you can do to alleviate the problem within you. Because once you get angry, it is not easy to get over it unless you know what these different items that will help you get rid of it. Most people just get angrier and angrier as time goes on because they don't know how to diffuse these things. So the last thing to keep in mind is that all anger is not always unhealthy. It can be healthy at times. It's healthy when it is not ongoing, but usefully channeled into appropriate actions. And again, up at the front, when I've got some of this stuff in there, it'll be a little more explained. So what is the biggest cause of anger? Well, according to books that I've read and articles that I've read, it's stress. That is the most important thing we need to remember, is you get yourself into a stressful situation, and most of the time it will make you angry. So, stress can be defined as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Stress is a natural human response that prompts us to address challenges and threats in our lives. So, it is basically a normal reaction to everyday pressures, but at times it can become unhealthy when it upsets your day-to-day functioning. Stress involves changing, and most people don't like change. So, how to reduce, prevent, and cope with stress is the next item we're going to talk about. It may seem that there's nothing you can do about the stress level that you are having. The bills aren't going to stop coming. There will never be more hours in the day than 24. Your career or family responsibilities will always be demanding, but you have a lot more control than you might think. In fact, the simple realization that you are in control of your life is the foundation of all stress management. Managing stress is all about taking charge of your thoughts, your emotions, your schedule, your environment, and the way you deal with problems. Not the way others deal with problems, the way you deal with problems. The ultimate goal is to have a balanced life with time for work, relationships, relaxation, and fun, plus the resilience to hold up under pressure and meet challenges head on. Do not let things basically build up and build up and build up that you don't even take advantage of trying to solve them before they get too worrisome. Stress management starts with identifying the sources of stress in your life. Your true sources of stress are not always obvious, and it is all too easy to overlook your own stress-inducing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You may know that you're constantly worried about work deadlines, but maybe it's your procrastination rather than the actual job demands that leads to deadline stress. And I know as I was growing up, this was definitely a problem for me, especially when I was in college. I always put off trying to, not studying for finals until like 2 days before the final was due. And I got through college, thank God, but it was really a lot of problem trying to study for 12, 14 hours, 16 hours, whatever, to try and get through to that final test. To identify your true sources of stress, look closely at your habits, your attitude, and your excuses. Do you explain away stress as temporary? Oh, I just have a million things going on right now. I just can't worry about one. Even though you can't remember the last time you took a breather, which is important. Breathing, again, we'll get into that in a bit, but breathing is a very, very important way to reduce stress. Do you blame your stress on other people or outside events, or view it as an entirely normal and unacceptable way of thinking? Until you accept responsibility for the role you play in creating or maintaining it, your stress level will remain outside your control. So you have to look at the way that you cope with stress. And there are different ways of looking at that. First off, what do you do when you get stressful? Well, one of the problems that cause more damage in the long run, but will alleviate stress at a short period, is if you're a smoker, go have a cigarette. You can also start to have a drink, but make sure you do not drink too much. You might take up overeating or undereating. You could zone out for hours in front of the TV or the computer because you don't want to be bothered with what you think doesn't have to be done. You withdraw from friends, family, and activities. You sleep too much. You procrastinate, which most of us do. Filling up every minute of the day to avoid facing your problems. Doing other things just to not have to worry about it. So the best thing that you try to do is to change the situation. Dealing with stressful situations, there are 4 A's to change the situation. 1, avoid the stressor. 2, alter the stressor. And how do you change your reaction to it? You adapt to that stressor, or you accept the stressor. So you must learn to say no. Know your limits and stick to them, whether in your personal or professional life. Refuse to accept added responsibilities when you're close to reaching them. Avoid people that stress you out. If someone constantly causes stress in your life and you can't turn the relationship around, limit the amount of time you spend with that person or end the relationship entirely. Take control of your environment. If the evening news makes you anxious, turn the TV off or just don't watch it. Let somebody else watch what they want to, but you just stay away from it. Avoid hot button topics. If you get upset over religion or politics, cross them off your conversation list. If you repeatedly argue about the same subject with the same people, stop bringing it up. I remember my father used to say, there are 3 things you cannot talk about: One is politics, one is religion, and one is taxes. And I found that to be very true. The other thing to try and do is to pare down your to-do list. Analyze your schedule, your responsibilities, and daily tasks. If you've got too much on your plate, you need to distinguish between the shoulds and the musts. Drop tasks that aren't truly necessary to the bottom of the list or eliminate them entirely. Stress management is, again, another strategy that you need to look at. 1, express your feelings instead of bottling them up. If something or someone is bothering you, communicate your concerns in an open and respectful way. 2, be willing to compromise. When you ask someone to change their behavior, be willing to do the same. If you are both willing to bend at least a little, you'll have a good chance of finding a happy middle ground. 3, be more assertive. Don't take a back seat in your own life. Deal with problems head on, doing your best to anticipate and avoid them. And you also want to try and prevent them. If you've got an exam to study for and your chatty roommate just got home, say up front that you only have a few minutes to talk because you need to be quiet and study. And finally, manage your time better. Poor time management can cause a lot of stress. When you're stressed too thin and running behind, it's hard to stay calm and focused. Excuse me. Stress management strategy number 3, adapt to the stressor. To view stressful situations from a more positive perspective, rather than fuming about a traffic jam, look at it as an opportunity to pause and regroup. Listen to your favorite radio station, or just enjoy some alone time. Take a look at the big picture. Take perspective of the stressful situation. Ask yourself how important it will be in the long run. Will it matter in a month? Will it matter in a year? Is it really worth getting upset over? If the answer is no, then focus your time and energy elsewhere. Adjust your standards. Perfectionism is a major source of avoidable stress. Stop setting yourself up for failure by demanding perfection. Set reasonable standards for yourself and others, and learn to be okay with good enough. And finally, focus on the positive. When stress is getting you down, take a moment to reflect on all of the things you appreciate in your life, including your own positive qualities and gifts. This simple strategy can help you keep things in perspective and not push a button. Stress management 4, accept the things you cannot change. First, don't try to control the uncontrollable. Many things in life are beyond our control, particularly the behavior of other people. Rather than stressing out over them, focus on things you can control, such as the way you choose to react, rather than yelling. Look for the upside. As the saying goes, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. When facing major challenges, try to look at them as opportunities for personal growth, even though that's difficult to do in many cases. If your own poor choices contributed to a stressful situation, reflect on them and learn from your mistakes. Share your feelings. Talk to a trusted friend or make an appointment with a counselor. Expressing what you're going through can be very cathartic, even if there's nothing you can do to alter the stressful situation. And finally, very important, learn to forgive. Accept the fact that we live in an imperfect world and that people make mistakes. Let go of anger and resentments. Find yourself free from negative energy by forgiving and moving on. There are basically some healthy ways to relax and recharge yourself when things do get stressful. Go for a walk, spend time in nature, call a good friend, sweat out tension with a good workout, take a long bath, light scented candles, savor a warm cup of coffee or tea, play with your pet, work in your garden, get a massage, curl up with a good book, or listen to music. Any of those will help to reduce a stressful situation for you. Next, we go into what is called stress, control it, change it, or let it go. You can learn a lot to, let's start again. You can learn to manage a great deal of your stress by looking at what really bothers you and asking yourself, can I control it? Can I change it? Or do I need to learn to let it go? You can't control other people. Those people can stress you out. However, you can't control things or events over which you have no control. That is, again, those are two things that can be stressful. There are different types of stressful situations. Some, like people interrupting you all the time, that you can control. You can let the interrupter know you are busy and don't have time to talk or listen to him. Other stresses, such as rush hour traffic, are usually beyond your control. But there are some things about rush hour traffic that you can personally change which may help. One is finding a different route. For example, you can also travel at a different time. Of course, sometimes these are not always possible. You might have to talk to a superior to find out if they will work, because your timing would be different. Rush hour traffic won't seem as frustrating if you're doing something to help keep your mind off the traffic and other drivers. So you have to learn to accept that situation. It's going to be stressful once in a while. And in some instances, if you're traveling right into Houston at the rush hour, it's going to be unhappy all the time. You can learn a great deal about your stress by looking at the stressor and asking yourself, okay, can I control it? Can I change it? Or do I need to let it go? This concept is an important key to stress management. We spend too much time worrying about things over which we have no control, and that we have no energy left to control the things that we can. We become so overwhelmed that we feel like our whole life is out of control and we will never catch up. So much of our stress comes from trying to control other people, places, and things which we cannot control. Keep that in mind when something starts to bother you. Again, the only person you can control is yourself. Okay? Letting go is a process. It takes time and doesn't always happen once because we want it to. We have to use our thoughts to control our emotions and our actions. Remind yourself that there are people and events, again, that you cannot control. All you control is your attitude and your reactions. It's possible to change yourself if you want. You need to talk about the situation if so. Identify what stresses you, which ones you can control of, take appropriate action, and let go of the things that you cannot control. You can view life as unexpected and exciting, or you can view it as scary because you do not know what the future holds. Take charge, take control, or let it go. The choice is yours. Okay, now we're going to talk about stress and how to stop negative thinking and your negative habits. When something isn't working, the most obvious remedy is to change it, whatever it is. For example, a CEO of a large or even a small company will stop an out-of-date production practice and decide on a new system to increase the bottom line, rather than continue to lose money by continuing with the old way of doing things. Essentially, change is a way of life. When a process or method doesn't yield results, people naturally think to change it. But people don't naturally consider change as a remedy for their own negative thinking, even when those negative thoughts limit the success of their business. Why don't they? Maybe because they can't identify their own negative thought processes, or maybe they have difficulty looking at themselves objectively. Regardless of the reason, you can change those negative patterns just like any other aspect of life. How about starting with number one? And it is, stop thinking that your work is meaningless and there is nothing I can do about it. Change to this one: I will do the best I can in all situations. Number two, many people complain that they are no longer happy in their career or position. They cite many common reasons, such as not caring anymore about the work, feeling that nothing seems very important, and believing that nobody appreciates their efforts. If this sounds like you, then decide today to stop thinking about the reasons you are unhappy and try to think of the things that you are happy and that you are doing the best that you can. If you are still unsatisfied and more on doing the finest work you can, you will become satisfied as long as you want it. Next, stop thinking whether I meet my goals is determined by things outside of my control. Change that to whatever is happening right now, I can learn from and create opportunity. Have you ever noticed how two individuals can have the same circumstances happen, but do different things with the experience? Two people can work hard and expend the same amount of energy and resources to launch a company and have different results. If neither company truly takes off, one person may become bitter and blame others, while the other person will use the experience as a way to learn and create future opportunities. Stop thinking about I am what I do. Change to I will keep a proper perspective. The outcome of my job situation will not make or break my life. Moving on, we go to 10 tips to beat the stress of your job and your life. No matter how much you may love your job or your life, you will always deal with stress. So, what can we do to change that? What tips can we use? Number one, isolate the stressors. When you are in the midst of stress, it may seem that things are coming from many directions, but stress usually comes from specific factors. And among those, the most common are: 1, going through a change in jobs or a new position in your company; 2, undergoing a personal crisis such as a divorce, medical condition of a friend or family member; 3, moving into a new residence; and 4, dealing with financial concerns such as your unpaid bills are beginning to get more and more involved. 2, many people undergoing stress believe they are all alone and no one knows what they are going through. The truth is that most everyone has stress. You need to open up to a trusted friend or family member about what's going on in your life. 3, reward yourself. Modern life moves so quickly that often we do not realize that we are run stop from jobs to quick taking care of our families to handling the necessities of life. And it may sound easier than done, but it is essential that you take some yourself. This does not mean that you are hiding or not dealing responsibly. Just take a reward for what you think or know that you have done right. 4 is an unusual one for many, many people, and it is exercise. One of the most beneficial way of beating stress is to exercise. Not exercising does not improve your physical health. Exercising releases endorphins that make you feel calmer. Next, freshen up your space. A change of scenery does not mean that you have to take a vacation. Next, develop a new hobby or interest. 3, get outside. Next, sleep. Find a quiet place. We're almost done. How do you deal with difficult people? We all go through this one. Aggressive types. How do you deal with an aggressive type that wants to force their viewpoint on you? Number 1, don't attack back, but do ask them to firmly sit down and explain calmly what they have to say. Then you have the know-it-alls. They are experts who have no patience for other people's input. Don't be intimidated. Do listen to them and try to benefit from their knowledge. How about victims? They often complain and feel like they are being treated unfairly. Sarcastic types. They use words as weapons, often destroying harmony in a group and causing resentment. They usually are poor team players. Naysayers have nothing good to say about anybody else's ideas. Do invite them to suggest alternatives. Yaysayers will go along with anything just to gain approval, so you have to watch out for them. Concepts in conflict resolution. Conflict is a part of life. It can be a positive part of life, an instrument of growth, or it can be good or bad, depending on how we learn to deal with it. Feelings are important. You must remember that how you feel is important to how you're going to express yourself. Okay, now, how do we deal with someone else's anger, whether it be a relationship or whether it be a work thing? 1, keep your cool. Don't answer anger with anger. 2, don't take it personally. Try to understand why the person is angry. His or her feelings may have little or nothing actually to do with you. 3, listen to the person. Sometimes an angry person just needs to blow off steam. 4, think of solutions together. If you're having a conflict with someone, try to find solutions that you can both agree on. Okay, I'm not going to do that one. Now we go to the one that is probably the most, at least for me, it is the one anger that I have not been able to solve, and that's road rage. I'm sorry to say. Road rage is aggressive or angry behavior exhibited by motorists. We know that. Road rage can include shouting, excessive use of a horn, obscene gestures and threats, actions such as cutting off another vehicle, driving too close, blocking another vehicle so it cannot use a traffic lane, chasing another vehicle, or deliberately slamming into a vehicle. And you must include that is another stressor, a very big stressor. As it increases, the likelihood of a person exhibiting road rage increases dramatically. And it is also known that younger males are most susceptible to road rage. I wonder about that because I'm 82. Road rage and aggressive driving behavior. Aggressive driving can take many forms like tailgating, weaving, and speeding, and it happens a lot. To all of us, it happens. We must worry about how we handle stressful situations. Factors that will make road rage come more to you are traffic delays, running late for a meeting, disregard for others and the laws because some drivers may think the rules don't apply to them, habitual or learned behavior. For some drivers, aggressive driving to them is the norm. The most common forms of road rage, again, are tailgating, yelling, honking, making angry or obscene gestures, trying to block another vehicle from changing lanes, cutting off another vehicle on purpose, bumping or ramming another vehicle. That one is, thankfully, that's one I can say I don't have a problem with. So what is it about road rage, okay? What is it about driving cars that can turn the mildest and calmest person into an aggressive, vindictive, and potentially dangerous driver? One is stress and fear. A lot of people find driving stressful, And the underlying feeling that is promoting stress is that it is fear. That is an emotion that we all have. We cover up fear, hurt, and sadness with anger. As it becomes more complicated, it appears to be more common that we are not allowed to be honest about our feelings. Our feelings are a natural part of life and have evolved over time to give us an accurate barometer of how we are reacting to our environment. When someone refuses to let you out of a side road and onto a busy main street, and you have an emotional reaction, is that really anger? Or is it hurt because people are not paying attention to you? Or is it fear that people don't that people want you to be late? The root cause of road rage. We know that familiar tightening feeling, the red tinge to your vision. Some bozo cuts you off, slows down as you are about to pass, is going under the limit in the left lane, doesn't signal, is on the phone, keeps you from making the green light. And it's showdown time at the I am not okay corral. Makes you tense just to listen. One study estimates that more than half of all drivers have experienced a surge of road rage at some point, although not all bang into the other offender's rear bumper, pull a pistol, or other things. Still, tens of thousands of accidents happen each year because of aggressive driving, which is also the leading cause of death for young children. Road ragers are selfish, power-hungry, and vindictive. The average offender has raged at least 27 times, according to one study. And you need to remember that the road rager might be inflamed by the absent-minded or stupid driving of those talking on cell phones alongside or in front of you. So what do you do to make sure you do not have road rage automatically? 1, get sufficient rest. 2, limit or have no alcohol. 3, leave early for your destination to avoid problems that might occur. 4, play soothing music or have a CD that you can listen to. Remember, bad behavior can cost you in more ways than one. People don't think about that. This can have a high price tag, even if no one is hurt or killed. You'll have tickets, lawyers, court costs, or damage to vehicles, and insurance rates. So are there any cures for road rage? Well, the biggest study says that anger management should be taught in every high school. Many people say that they don't know that there are alternative options and ways of releasing anger. Anger management is both educational and therapeutic, and there would be a lot less road rage and domestic violence if this was taught early in school. And, oh boy, we're almost done. 9 ways to avoid road rage. This should be close to the very end. We know what road rage is, so let's talk about the 9 ways. 1, aggressive driving and road rage warning signs. No 2 drivers are the same, so the way that they express their frustration may be different. We have tailgating, speeding, cutting other drivers off, running red lights or stop signs, swerving in and out of heavy traffic, not using turn signals, preventing other cars from passing or changing lanes, flashing bright headlights, passing a stopped school bus. That's aggressive driving. When aggressive driving escalates into road rage, you might see a driver throw objects at another vehicle, scream at other people or make angry gestures, ram another vehicle, sideswipe another vehicle, or force another vehicle off the road. So what are the quick ways we can do? How about road rage? If it bothers you, try to remove yourself from the situation as quickly as possible. Only use your horn if necessary. Don't drive when experiencing intense emotion. Call for help if necessary. And apologize after a mistake if both drivers stop. Okay, now we come down to the last of it. Then these are two things that I've got up there. One is you need to practice your positive self-talk. Here's the thing that you'll write down the situation that has bothered you, that you just occurred sometime in the past week. Write down the negative message that you felt at the time. What negative thing occurred to you? And then over on the other side, it's a positive message. Write down what you could have done to avoid that situation, and it will be your positive self-talk that you can handle or use immediately when a situation starts to bother you and get angry. The next thing you can do is practice I statements. I would feel better if you didn't do this while we're eating dinner. I would feel better if you would make the bed in the morning. And instead of saying you didn't make the bed, why? Saying it, I would feel better if you would do that, changes the whole verbiage. It changes the way you're expressing yourself, and it would allow the other person to feel more comfortable and understand what you're saying. And the last part we're going to talk about is assertive versus unassertive and aggressive behavior. We have three ways of confronting a situation. We can be assertive, we can be aggressive, or we can be quiet. And the three things are as possible, as I quickly will do. There's the passive person, is afraid to speak up, speaks softly, avoids looking at people, shows little or no emotion, slouches and withdraws, agrees with others despite maybe feeling different, does not reach goals, and also says, you're okay, but I'm not. Then you have the aggressive person, which is just the opposite, interrupts and talks over others, speaks loudly, glares and stares at others, stands rigidly, crosses arms, invades others' personal space, values self more than others, hurts others to avoid being hurt. I'm okay, you're not. And finally, we have the assertive person, which is what we all should try to become. We speak openly. We use a conversational tone. We make good eye contact. We show expressions that match the message we are trying to get across. Relaxes and adopts an open posture and expression. Participates in groups. Speaks to the point. Values self equal to others. I'm okay, you're okay. And finally, we're going to read what is called the Glossary of Assertive Skills. I just mentioned what we're trying to do. Be assertive, don't be aggressive, don't be passive. The Glossary of Assertive Skills. You have a situation called a broken record, and that is sticking to your point by using calm repetition. An example is, you're returning something to a store. The best thing to say is, this didn't work, I would like my money back. The next one is fogging. Calmly acknowledging that there may be some truth in what the other person is saying, yet allowing you to be the judge of your own behavior. This skill helps us to accept manipulative criticism without becoming defensive. An example, a person comes up to you and says, you really dress like a bum today. Your best way to answer that is, I see how you might feel that way, but I personally like to dress this way, and it is okay with management. Boom, easy. Free information, and that is, for an example, my dog has just learned to sit. And you say, I really like dogs. Tell me a little more about yours, what he does. And finally, the last thing of all is, you are always late. You know, you are right. I am usually always late. Thank you for listening. Thank you. I was not as